Hey guys, welcome back to another episode on Section 8 real estate investing, okay? Today we have part one of a part two video series on acquiring Section 8 property, okay? How we do it, the two different ways of acquiring Section 8 property, okay? The first 10 properties I acquired them from scratch. That's what we're gonna talk about today. The next video, we're gonna talk about acquiring Section 8 property that's already established, that's already cash flowing. I'm gonna present to you what the differences are of both, the pros, the cons, and let you guys make the decision. It's your money, all right? So, acquiring Section 8 property from scratch. Now, everything that goes into buying a house, okay? Checking the surrounding areas, doing research on HUD's fair market rent like we've talked about in previous videos, going on HUD.gov, HUD.com, typing in your zip code, the county that you live in or the county you want to buy or invest in, seeing how much money you can get for a single, double, triple bedroom, right? 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom, whatever it is, and making sure that it makes sense for your investment goals, okay? Now, all that is part of due diligence, okay? We're gonna really spend a lot of time checking out the neighborhood, making sure there's not too much crime, making sure that you have some room for appreciation over the course of how long you wanna buy and hold this property, okay? There's a lot that goes into that. Now, the due diligence is the same as if we were buying a property that's already cash flowing a Section 8 tenant. So that stays, okay? This remains. That's one of the only things that is going to remain on the difference between acquiring Section 8 property from scratch and acquiring Section 8 property that's already cash flowing, okay? Now, if you're gonna go from scratch, right? For example, the first bunch of properties that I acquired for Section 8 homes, I bought through foreclosures. Now that was good because I knew I was getting a clear title, right? The bank's not gonna sell you something that doesn't have a clear title. I know a lot of people that buy tax liens, tax deed properties, and turn those into a Section 8, but I don't like that, right? Because it's not a clear title. I wanna make sure things that I have clear titles. That way, if I wanna pull equity against it later, if I wanna sell it, I have a clear title, I don't have to worry about it, okay? Now, rehab, okay? When you buy a house from scratch, it could be a foreclosure, right? So it's gonna need some kind of rehab. It might need some updating, okay? We don't know what the situation is. We don't know, maybe you bought it, it was obviously distressed. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But still, you're gonna have to do some kind of rehab inside of it, right? Even if it's very, very minimal, okay? I've bought houses that are almost turnkey for Section 8. But even still, maybe there's some wood that's fallen off the wall you gotta replace. Maybe there's a couple old toilets you gotta replace. You gotta change some plumbing situations. There's always a little rehab that goes into it, and that's for you to find out before the inspection, okay? You wanna make sure that before HUD sends their inspector out there, he's not the one that finds these issues, because all that's gonna do is set you guys back, all right? Now, you decided to get a property from scratch. You bought a foreclosure, it needed a little bit of work, you put a couple thousand into it, make sure it's ready to go, okay? Now you gotta market the property, right? You're looking for a Section 8 tenant. You post it on some groups, some Section 8 groups on Facebook. You go on gosection8.com, you post it there, okay? You're starting to get some hits, Now, meanwhile, you're still paying insurance, you're still paying property taxes, you're still paying utilities on this, okay? It might take you a month or two to get this thing rented depending on what area you're in, okay? Now, granted, some areas have extremely high demand where there's wait lists for Section 8 properties are 5,000-6,000 people deep. So there's tons and tons of demand, but even still, right? You might have a 2-bedroom place, a 3-bedroom place, and the majority of people in that area are looking for 4 bedrooms or 1 bedrooms, okay? So there's a lot that goes into that, okay? I can't tell you that you're gonna buy a place from scratch and rehab it and get a tenant in overnight, right? There's gonna have to be some patience sometimes, and that's a risk you're gonna have to keep in mind, all right? Now, you started from scratch, you did your due diligence, you rehabbed the property, put a couple thousand in, right? You did your marketing, you finally have a tenant that you like, they've submitted an application to you, okay? They've submitted their Section 8 packet. You have to do a little history, okay? This is on you, just like you do for any of your other rentals that are straight cash. You have to do some research on the tenant. Just because it's a government program, sometimes some people get through the cracks. Maybe they have a criminal history, maybe they have bad credit, okay? That's on you to figure out. You need to figure that out. You need to do all that work yourself. Okay, after you do that, you sign off on their packet. If you like it, you give it back to their caseworker, and the caseworker and you are gonna set up an inspection, right? So that HUD inspector is gonna come out to your property, gonna go through it and evaluate it. When they evaluate that property, they're gonna come out and say, hey, Rhett, this needs to be done. This wasn't done correctly. You have this problem, this problem, this problem, right? And I say, okay, I'll get it fixed. Let's set up a reschedule for next week. I send out my contractor. He goes and takes care of the small problems. That way when the inspector comes out the next week, takes care of everything, all right? Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but it adds time, right? And time is money in this game. Now, lastly, you have the move-in. Once the tenant moves in, once the inspection takes place, the lease is signed immediately. Following the inspection, you start getting paid. So even if it takes a month for the tenant to move in, you're still getting paid a prorated amount from that past inspection date, okay? Our tenant moves in and they're in. Fantastic, we did it. Now, there's just a lot of steps here, okay? There's a lot of steps, and that's fine, because when you do it this way, you can control your costs a lot more, right? So for example, if I'm gonna go from scratch, I'm gonna buy a house that's distressed, I'm gonna pay bottom dollar for it, right? I get to decide what happens with the rehab every step of the way. I get to decide the small things that are changed inside the house before a tenant gets in there, right? I'm doing all the marketing, I'm doing all the tenant research, I'm doing all the packet, I'm setting up the inspection. It's a lot of me doing work. It's the same with you, it's a lot of you doing work, right? That time frame that you're doing that work is costing money. Now, if you get a good amount of rent for the property and you're still into this property for under what your budget is, it's a victory, it's a win. But if this takes too long to do all this, okay, if the due diligence takes a while, if the rehab ends up taking you an extra month to get done and you're behind schedule a month, and then the marketing takes a little longer than you thought, so you still don't have a tenant in time, and then you have a couple tenants that apply but they get bad history, and then the inspection comes and you forgot you had to do some things that you didn't do, and now there's 2 or 3 inspections, you failed the first 2, and then by the time the move-in's scheduled, it's 30 days after your inspection. This can take a while, right? Now, if you still are getting an unbelievable cap rate, say somewhere between 10 and 20%, 10 and 18%, which I've seen on Section 8 properties recently in the past 12 months, then it's worth it, right? But if you're spending all this extra time and money and your cap rate is still 7, 8%, you're just losing money on it every single month by not having somebody in there and doing work on the property that might even not appreciate on the back end, even with all the rehab you're doing on a buy and hold, it's probably not worth it, right? Now, I've done it this way, I've done a lot of them this way, but what I started doing recently and what I will continue to do is buy them with Section 8 tenants in them already. There's a lot of good things that can come with that. There's some bad things too, but follow up, check out our next video, part 2 of acquiring Section 8 property. We're gonna discuss what it's like buying a property that already has a Section 8 tenant, or someone else has already done this work for you, how much you're gonna have to pay for a premium, and what goes into that. Guys, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, drop them below. I'm gonna get to all of them, and follow up with us. We'll get some good stuff coming. Thanks, guys.